reaching the 1 year point with somebody who's been reconstructed, I'm focusing most of my conversation on the operative knee and the concept of graft maturation, and how that relates to risks moving forward for mostly for the surgical knee, and trying to put that in terms relative to the contralateral side, so that they understand that at 1 year their risk of re-injury is roughly equal to their contralateral knee, and at 2 years that, as you point out, that the risk of injury is actually less on the reconstructed knee than it is on the non-reconstructed knee, which I think is helpful for some athletes in terms of the mental hurdle of getting back into participation and trusting that knee that's been reconstructed.
That's a great point. Will you explain that to the listeners, and Will and everybody else? What do you mean by the maturation of the graft?
Sure. So when we're reconstructing the ACL with whichever type of graft you're selecting, whether it's autograft or allograft tissue, the graft tissue that you put in has to go through a process of integrating with the body and turning into what would be, equivalent to a ligament, histology wise. And so that takes time, and that's something that is really not a function of how hard someone is working at their rehab process, but it's just a biological process that takes a defined amount of time, and that's directly correlated with the risk of re-injury. And so we know that around 3 or 4 months post-surgical, that the load to failure for the graft tissue that we've placed is actually less than at the time of which the surgery is completed, and by roughly 6 to 9 months, that it's starting to get stronger, but still not as strong as the native ligament. And then by 1 year, it's typically equivalent to the normal load to failure strength of the ACL, but not until 2 years is it actually at its maximum, which actually becomes less likely to re-injure than the contralateral native ligament. So I think
Awesome.
that's a concept that I think is important to note for people that have this kind of idea that they're a fast healer